Hello, I'm Mimi, and I recently shared a video about building my art business as an introvert, and it turns out that a lot of you guys are introverts too and can relate to the difficulties of showing up online, especially if you're trying to build an audience or online business. So I thought it would be fun to expand on the topic and do a little Q&A, and I've collected some of your questions to answer while I do a little digital illustration. So let's jump straight into them. The first question is from Erica Norris, and they ask, how do you find community online/offline? As a shy introvert, I find it very hard to connect with others. I found my community in a way that was comfortable for me by slowly connecting with people on Instagram via comments, and then via messages, and eventually via YouTube and Patreon. Of course, everyone is different, but for me, I don't find it hard to connect with people. I just find it hard to feel expected to constantly connect and be available for people and be energetic and on camera. I find it helps to connect when you have a common interest like digital art, and you can comment on someone's art and say what you like about it, and then they might comment back when you upload something, and suddenly you have a little connection. I think encouragement is probably one of the easiest forms of connection, so if you're struggling to connect online, then send some words of encouragement to people either as a comment or a message, and you might not get a response from everyone, but at the very worst, you'll brighten their day and you might just make a little internet friend out of it. The second question is from Random Squirrel Arts, and they say, I'm curious about how to provide value when you're introverted and scared to share knowledge because your mind is also invaded by the imposter syndrome. Also, how to be engaging and interact with your audience. It can be really daunting to put yourself out there on the internet and share knowledge because it's really easy to think, well, why would anyone listen to what I have to say because there are much more advanced people out there than me. But in reality, you don't need to be an expert to be able to teach people. You just need to know something that they don't. I actually think that often the best teachers are the people who are just a step or two ahead of you because it's fresh in their minds what you're going through and what you need to know. And they're more approachable than someone who's got years and years of experience on you. You don't have to pretend like you have all the answers, but you can position yourself as someone who's developing their skills and share what you've learned so far. As for engaging and interacting with your audience, you could invite them to ask you questions and have conversations with them in the comments of your content. If you're on Instagram, you can make polls in your stories, or if you're on YouTube, you can create community posts to involve your audience in what you're doing. I really like for my community to be involved in the content that I make, so I ask polls on Patreon for what I should draw, I ask polls on YouTube about who my audience are and what they think, and I put polls on Instagram stories too. The next question is from 2DameCute UK, and they ask, how do you approach commission work? I get a lot of anxiety about offering art as a service because I'm never sure if the client would be happy or satisfied with my artwork. This is a really great question, and I'm sure it's a very common fear for artists offering commissions. I was absolutely worried the first few times I did commissions that the customer wouldn't like what I had drawn. But actually, people love having something custom drawn for them, and they've chosen you because they like your art style. Something that helps here is having a fairly clear style for commissions in your portfolio, wherever that may be, so that people can see up front what kind of art they're going to get, and I always let my customers know that they'll have the opportunity to make some small adjustments if things aren't quite right. That gives me the peace of mind that if they aren't 100% happy, then they'll get the chance to adjust colors or little details, and if it's a big job, then I'll draw a sketch first and let them look at that before spending time on the final illustration, and that way I know we're on the same page. Also, it's very rare, but you might just get a difficult client, and at the end of the day, you can't please everybody. All you can do is your best work, and if you know you've done your best, then you can feel proud of what you've done. Now I have a question from Bonnie Hammond who asks, how do you balance everything as a business owner? Social media consistently and everything else always overwhelms me within the first couple of weeks, and I just give up. Everyone has different limits for what overwhelms them, and I think the key to balance is understanding yourself and your limits, and not basing it on someone else's idea of productivity. I've definitely tested my limits lots of times and become overwhelmed and needed to step back, but now I know what overcommitting looks like for me, so I'm better equipped for avoiding it. I've done my best to build my business in a way that's sustainable for me by only having some of my work requiring me to show up at any one time. And I've had to accept that although I would love to respond to every nice comment and message, I actually can't, and it's okay if I have to leave comments unanswered sometimes. I'm someone who enjoys doing a little bit of everything, but the downside of that is that I have a lot of plates spinning and it can be quite hard to balance. I just have to remind myself though that if a YouTube video doesn't go out on time or I don't respond to messages for a few days, that it doesn't actually matter. Posting content or an illustration is a step forward for my skills and my online business, but not posting a piece of content isn't a step backwards. There seems to be a culture on social media of needing to show up every day, and I see all the time people apologizing for not posting the stories today or not uploading a post, and I just don't think anyone needs to apologize for not posting content. Now, I had a question on Instagram that says, how do you deal with the pressure of commenting / uploading / being active online when you don't want to or have no energy? This is a really good question, and for me, feeling pressured to show up online just because I think the algorithm expects me to, or I think my audience expects me to, is actually a big deterrent and a good way to get me to not be active online. If I don't want to or I don't have the energy to do something online, then I won't. And there are times when I'm not very active on social media because I'm working on other projects, or I'm taking some time off, or I'm just feeling low on energy. And I've decided that that's okay because it's the most sustainable way for me to be online. But usually showing up online isn't too much of an issue for me because I want to do it. Because I've built my online presence around something I genuinely really love, and so my community are all people who I enjoy connecting with, and I really like making content for you guys. I try to ignore the pressure from social media to post and enjoy the tool for what it provides me and what I get to share with my audience. So there's usually a good reason for me not wanting to be online. Sometimes I just need a little break for a few days or a week so that I can get excited and motivated about my content and my community again. I'm not a robot, so I don't expect myself to behave like one and show up in the same way every day. I do think you need to love what you put out on social media if you want to grow an audience, because you're probably going to be living and breathing that content, and it does take quite a bit of energy. If you're just using it because you feel pressured to, then it's going to be a lot more difficult and probably less sustainable in the long run. And lastly, I have another question from Instagram, and they ask, what are your favorite ways to recharge when you've spent too much social energy? I like to be in a quiet little bubble, left alone to my own thoughts, either in a quiet room with a cup of tea, or on a couch with a big blanket watching TV, or going out for a long walk with some nice music. Sometimes I read a book or do some baking, or I'll play a video game like Stardew Valley to escape the world for a little while. So that's all the questions for today. Thanks for coming and having a chat with me while I did this drawing. And thank you to everyone who asked a question. It's always a joy to make content for you guys, and I hope you found this video helpful. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!